upside and downside to being an elected official. Every 4 years you stand for election, and then you got to do this delicate balance between my daily routine, which is about 12 to 14 hours, and then somewhere in there I have to work in campaigning to get reelected. So this is not a fun time for a candidate or their family, by the way, so I'll just tell you that up front. And the reason why I preface my comments with that is we gave you a fact sheet. This is on our website, we pass that out. Because everyone, I say everyone, most everyone, when you start the political year, they'll say, well, Sheriff, what's your platform? Well, I'll tell you as an incumbent what your platform is. It's your record. Stand on your record. It is what it is, and so if you have not accomplished the things that you promised the voters that you would in your first term, then you're in real trouble. And so what we did is we sat down with the campaign team, we went through the list of things that we've accomplished in the last 2.5 years, and I will tell you that personally I'm very proud of those, and I'm very proud of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office for what we've done. So let me start out with the good news. The good news is last year, as we predicted in my run for office, by the way, that you would see a rise in crime. For those of you that followed my campaign, I hammered away at that theme, and the reason why I did is because for about 8 to 10 years in Escambia County, we practiced what I call the ostrich method of law enforcement. That's, we stick our head in the sand, and we ignore everything out here going on around us, and we just say, well, that's not really gangs, they're just kind of loose neighborhood groups. They're not gangs, just loose neighborhood groups. And oh, by the way, we're not really incentivizing our local economy to bring business here. Stick our head in the sand. We got the whitest beaches and the nicest people. It's a wonderful place to live. That's all we need. Well, that's the ostrich defense in law enforcement and in governance, in that you ignore reality. And unfortunately, too many elected officials attempt to warp reality into what their perceptions are. And many times it has no basis in reality. So what I did in my campaign and what we've fulfilled in the last 2.5 years is I told everyone, I'm going to take a cold, hard, clear-eyed look at this thing, which we're wont to do as military officers in your career, and we're going to address the issues for what they are. Sometimes they'll be pleasant, sometimes they'll be unpleasant. But one of the things that I will never walk away from this job or any job that I've held without someone saying, well, you didn't really tell us the truth here, Dave. You didn't tell us what the situation was. You weren't forthcoming with the information, and that's something that you never want laid at your doorstep. And so we predicted this rise in crime, and last year we believed it peaked. We had a horrendous spike in homicides. We had 31 homicides throughout the county. Now, 4 of those were in the city, 27 were actually in the county proper. But again, when we report under the Uniform Crime Report, crime within the community, I pick up also what's in the city, even though we have a separate police department for that. Now, oddly enough, that was not the highest, even though 1 homicide is 1 homicide too many in your community. We peaked at 37 back in '89 and '88 in Escambia County. You had a couple of groups when the gangs were really starting to get a foothold in Escambia County. They came up from Miami called the Latin Kings. Some of you have probably heard of those, nationally affiliated gang, and also a group called the Miami Boys. And they had a little bit of a gang warfare going in Escambia County, each one jockeying to be the preeminent gang here, and you had a horrendous spike in crimes. Then it was 37, or for homicide, I should say. We had 31 last year. This year, not Formica, okay, we've had 8. We've had 8. We're at mid-year, we've had 8. We changed tactics somewhat. Again, you reap what you have sown. So we began my first few weeks in office in changing the way we fundamentally do business in the Sheriff's Office. Number one, we recognize things for what they are. Now, it's amazing to me that law enforcement groups, and by the way, there's still some contention amongst law enforcement about this. If I've got a group of individuals between the ages of 13 and 25, which tends to be the average time for gang members, they're traveling in packs, they wear the same clothes, they're flashing gang signs, they got the same tattoos, they're doing home invasions, car burglaries, selling drugs, running prostitutes. It's a duck. Okay, it's a duck. It's got webbed feet, feathers, wattles, wax, all that nonsense. Tail shakes when it walks. It's a duck. That is a gang by definition of the Florida statutes. But we've got people in our community, because we want to remain what I've referred to in the last campaign as Bayberry RFD. We're not going to admit to that now. We're not going to say the G word in Escambia County, because if we don't say the G word, then it's not true. Well, it's that sort of approach to law enforcement that unfortunately got us to where we are today. In that, again, we didn't face the reality of the fact that, yes, we do. We have 17 identified gangs in Escambia County. 17. Some with national affiliates. The Bloods and the Crips from the east and the west coast, predominantly black gangs. On the Hispanic side, we have La Familia, MS-13, Serenos 13, a small element of the Mexican Mafia. You know, I can drive you right now to the area town where there's 4 or 5 of them, you know, that are kind of camped out. We arrested the preeminent recruiter for the Bloods last year. He went through federal prosecution. He got, I believe, 25 years. He was sent from the West Coast. We got all the photos of him. It's all padded up and all that stuff. He was here to recruit, and he made the statement that the Bloods would be the preeminent gang in Escambia County, and that was his goal, was to make that. So again, by ignoring that issue, they got a foothold, and so we saw, and we mirrored the national average, by the way. 80% of our street crime is gang-related, 80%, and that mirrors the national average. So we took, again, a very realistic approach to this. We partnered with the Bureau and FDLE and ATF and DEA. We formed a gang task force, and we've aggressively attacked this problem. In the jail, my first couple of weeks in office in our command staff meetings, they started tagging the jail cells. Now, for those of you that don't know what tagging is, that's where they spray paint their gang symbol, okay, around town, and you'll see it around town. That's to mark their territory, and that's to let you know that we are here. When you see a gang symbol in a part of town that's not where that gang is primarily housed, that's what they're doing is they're dissing the other gang. They're letting them know that we traversed through your territory, and this is a kind of an Italian thing like that. Hey, we invaded your territory, we came through and we left. Well, they started tagging our jail cells in Escambia County. We had these yahoos in jail putting their gang symbols inside, okay, the jail cells. So I asked, who's my classification officer? And just like you, I got dead silence. And I said, we don't have, who classifies people at intake that they're a gang member? Silence. But we didn't have any classification officer. For those of you that don't know, a classification officer in larger agencies, of course, we're number 9 out of 67, by the way. We're fairly large in Florida. The classification officer is the officer at intake when we take you into custody that looks for the gang tattoos. You know, Hispanic gangs primarily between their first finger and their thumb will have a series of diamonds there. Now, they'll have additional tattoos on their arms, but they'll designate their locale where they're from and if they're a member of a Hispanic organization. The colors that they wear, you know, the signs that they flash to people. We didn't have anyone when we did an intake could identify that. So we now have trained up several classification officers that at intake in the Escambia County Jail, we now start cataloging for intelligence purposes these young men that we intake that are what? Members of gang or want to be an affiliate of a gang. So we started at square one upon my taking office and identifying this problem and starting to address the very clear, distinct criminal issues that we have in our county. So I'm proud to tell you we've made tremendous progress in that, and we will continue to do so. But that's the problem that you have within any organization, whether it's government or business, when you ignore the problem, correct? I mean, if you're in business and you ignore the fact that I have an item on my shelf that's not selling, and you say, yeah, but I really like that item, I'm going to buy more. Anybody doing that? I just really like that item, I need to buy more. Now, it's not moving out the door, you know, it's not helping you pay the rent, pay your employees and all the insurance and all the associated things you have to run a business, but you really, really like this item. So you're going to buy more of it. Anybody doing that in their business? But that's exactly what your government does, out of purpose. You know, I really, really like this program. Now, it's not giving us any return on our investment, but I really like it. So I'm going to continue to dump more money into it. Now that's, as Einstein said, a mild form of insanity, isn't it? You know what part 2 of that mild form of insanity is that when we identify that we've got people that continue to support these non-starting programs, and we elect somebody else, and we put a new face in there, and that person continues to do what? Fund that non-starting program. So you've changed the face, but you didn't change the way you do business. So those are some pragmatic approaches that we've taken to law enforcement in the county, and again, we're starting to reap a lot of those benefits. I'm very proud to say. Our crime this year, again, we've had 8 homicides. We're past the middle of the year now. Again, knock wood. By the way, do you know homicide is the most frustrating crime you work in law enforcement? And the reason why is we can do public service announcements, go to neighborhood watches. We can do a lot of things to prevent crime, and that's called crime prevention, which is the goal of law enforcement, is to make sure you don't become a victim of crime, victimization. So we can tell you things about, locking your car. Don't leave your cell phones and your computers, your laptop on the seat next to you. Do some common sense things, because sadly in the world we live in today, people don't respect each other's property. So the society I grew up in, because you had your phone in your car or a valuable item in the seat wasn't an invitation for me to take it. I knew that was the wrong thing to do, to take somebody else's property. But today, we have to hide these things, because that, unfortunately, is what we've morphed into in our society. But we can teach you those techniques to make sure that the likelihood of becoming a victim of crime is dramatically decreased. I can't do that with homicides. Just can't do that. So we are reactive when it comes to murders. When we have a murder, we react. Let me give you an example. In last year, 2010, our first homicide in January of 2010, our worst year during my tenure in office, was an elderly gentleman on the west side of town who lived around the Myrtle Grove area. He had decided that a good lifestyle was to take up with a prostitute who was addicted to crack cocaine. This was his plan. And I guess it worked pretty good for a while. He gave her a place to live, gave her a little bit of money. I'm sure sexual favors were transferred, back and forth. And then one night she decides she needs money for crack cocaine, and he decides that for whatever reason, I'm not going to give it to you. She didn't like that, of course. So she hits him in the head with a wine bottle, kills him. Now, how do you prevent that? How do you stop it? Most of our homicides are that way. They are an incident that occurred. It's very violent, very swift, with devastating results, and you're in a reactive mode to that. I can't prevent homicides. And so while that's the most headline grabbing, it's also the most frustrating for us. And then to compound that issue, when we go to certain neighborhoods, and we're making inroads there too, by the way, what do you get? I didn't see nothing. I didn't hear nothing. Okay. I don't want to hear anything. I had my eyes closed the whole time. And so most of your homicides, contrary to what you see on TV, everybody here is an expert, by the way, in criminalistics, in case you don't know that. This is actually affecting our criminal justice system, in the court system, and